seemed very happy, very connected.
Chris had a crush on her in high school.
She was my stepmom. I considered her like my best friend.
When Chris and Heidi were in the process of moving, Chris started drinking again. It was pretty out of control.
His mind was gone.
She hit me across the head twice, man, and lit me up.
Because of the alcohol, he'd been acting strange.
I lost my father, but I also lost my stepmom.
The search took us to this concrete tomb. The concrete was probably a foot deep. You wouldn't have known there was a body there.
Paulding County, it's very small. Everybody knows everybody. Didn't have to worry about anything bad happening to you.
Heidi was very well known in the local area because of her family and their wedding or catering business, especially with small towns. I feel like everybody knew Heidi Grant, or the Grant family name at least.
With Heidi, I took pride in planning weddings and making sure everybody's special day was just right for them. It was her family business, so it was more than a job to her.
Me and Heidi were good friends. We chatted a lot, we planned get-togethers. She was a very likable, funny person.
We liked to go shopping and listen to music together. She was also there for me, like friends. We were really close.
Her ex-husband and her have 2 children. She has a boy and a girl, but they did not live with her. They live with their dad.
Chris had a crush on her in high school. As they graduated, they both went their separate ways, and then they reconnected later on Facebook. Chris and Heidi, they were both divorced, and I think that they had a lot in common as far as that goes.
It was definitely a little weird seeing my dad with someone else, but I really grew to like her. It was a really good friendship, but also they were in love too. When my parents got divorced, I stayed with my mom for a week, and then I would go to my dad's and Heidi's for a week. Heidi and I, we did a lot together. She took me to school every day. We were really close, like friends. Heidi was a very big factor in my softball career too. She was at every single game.
Chris went to AA meetings 2-3 times a week, and Heidi was very supportive of him getting help and staying sober. It was definitely a struggle for Chris. He would get a handle on it, and then something happened, stress or even happiness, excitement, and it would trigger him.
Chris was very open with Heidi about his struggles with alcohol. I think that she thought she could really help him through it and keep him sober. Chris stopped over one day and he said that he was going to ask Heidi to marry him.
Chris seemed very excited. He couldn't wait to propose. Things were falling into place for Chris and Heidi and Olivia.
Chris and Heidi got married at Grant's Catering Hall. We were all supposed to be there, but COVID had hit and we weren't able to gather for that day.
It was just my dad, Heidi, me, and then Heidi's dad. I was glad to be able to witness it. They seemed very happy. It looked like it was going to be very bright in the future.
Shortly after Chris and Heidi got married, they decided to move back to Antwerp, which was closer to the catering business. They found a nice little house right in the center of town.
Chris took medications, help him with his drinking. He took a pill, which if he chose to drink, it would make him really sick. And the pill was very effective for Chris.
He was in a really good point in his life. He was really happy. He had stopped taking his medication because he felt happy. He felt like he could handle life, you know. That was the wrong thing. He should have kept taking them.
When Chris and Heidi found this house in Antwerp and they were in the process of moving, Chris started drinking again.
When my mom passed away in August of 2021, it affected us a lot. It affected Chris really bad.
We were all very worried that Chris was drinking again. Having to lose his mom in life was probably the worst thing he'd ever experienced as far as loss and pain. That's what set off, you know, the spiral, I believe, to his drinking again. When Chris would drink, you know, he'd start out as fun-loving and easygoing, and if he got really drunk, then it was argumentative. This time, when Chris started drinking, it was pretty out of control.
When I went to work one morning, Heidi showed up and she asked me if I could help them move. Basically, all they had left in Oakwood to move was the heavier stuff. She said Chris had been drinking. She didn't want him driving. And I told her, well, I can't really leave right now, but Dad and my older brother Dave are down at his house. I'm sure they would help you get the rest of your stuff out. So they went, hooked up my dad's trailer and took it over there. And just as they were leaving the house, Chris showed up. He was annoyed that my dad and my brother Dave was there to finish helping them move. They started arguing in the driveway, and Chris went to grab a hold of my brother Dave, and Dave grabbed a hold of him and took his legs out from underneath him and put him on the ground and said, I'm gonna let you up and we'll leave and that'll be that.
When we got home from work, we found out that an altercation had happened, an argument, and Chris was drinking. Heidi and Chris, they were in an argument still. Heidi did not want to go home and deal with Chris drinking and arguing all night. So she was coming over to our house. When she showed up at her house, Heidi was angry is what she was. She said, I will never let a man destroy me or my family's name again. And she was very adamant about that. Antwerp, Paulding County area, it's all very small town. Gossip spreads like wildfire.
She was more worried about her family name than anything.
Heidi, she was always worried about what could happen if, say, the law was called or, you know, she didn't want her business, her family's name dragged through the mud.
What's your emergency?
Get the out. Hello? Hey, man, my wife should try to kill me. Get the out. Hello? Hey, man, my wife should try to kill me.
On January 13th, 2022, a 911 call was made in reference to a domestic dispute that had occurred.
How'd you do that?
Hit me with a fucking... I was laying in my chair, she fucking hit me across the head twice, man, and lit me up.
What'd she hit you with?
Table leg.
The caller was Christopher Franklin, and he reported that he had been hit in the head by his wife. The dispatcher contacted me, and I decided I should go to the residence and just see what was going on. The dispatcher didn't report it to me as an active domestic violence incident, which means that it was going on. It was something that had already occurred. Half the party had already left. When I arrived at the property, Heidi Grant come to the door and stepped out onto the porch to talk to me. She was surprised that I was there, and I told her that Christopher had called and alleged that, you know, she had hit him. And then she proceeded to tell me that he had been up all night drinking and he was now sleeping. She told me that there had been, no acts of violence between neither one of them in the house, and she just suspected that he was intoxicated when he made the call. When I asked her if we should go inside and talk to Chris, she said, "George, I'd really rather you not. If we wake him up, he's probably just going to become agitated. Then I'll have hell to pay." We had dealt with Christopher on many occasions. We did know that he suffered from alcoholism, and I believed what she was telling me, that he was probably in there passed out. She said if there was any issues or anything, she would be sure and call. And at that point, I left the house.
When I came to the house, my dad wasn't there. Heidi told me that he was at work. I packed my bag real quick, and then she took me to Indiana, and I was gonna come home Sunday night. When Heidi picked me up from the tournament, we came home. My dad's truck wasn't there. We watched TV in the living room that night, and she just kept saying, "I wonder where your dad is, I wonder where your dad is." The next morning, Heidi told me that she found Dad's phone in the bedroom, and she said that one of his friends tried to call him, and that's how she found it.
When Chris would drink, he would get in his car and take off. And we were always concerned with driving, and drinking and getting in an accident, not just hurting himself, but somebody else.
Heidi told me that she drove around looking for him. She said that she called local hospitals, local police stations, local bars. That Tuesday morning when I woke up, he still wasn't home, and that's when I really got concerned. Heidi took me looking for him, going around places that he would be. I asked Heidi if she called the police and to file a missing persons report, and she said that they couldn't do anything because he was an adult and that he could just leave on his own. That Thursday when I went back to my mom's house, I was more nervous that something bad happened to him. Something definitely didn't feel right. I was definitely really worried. My dad always wanted me to do my best. He always pushed me to do my best. He was a very big support in my softball. He would come practice with me. He would tell me what I was doing wrong and try to help me fix it. He was really funny, and he always had to crack a joke or make someone laugh. I told my mom more details about it and said that I was really worried. She then texted my uncle Dave about it and said Dad has been missing for this many days.
Heidi talked about Chris was struggling with suicide. She had talked about this song that he sent to everybody on his friends list, like on Facebook or Messenger, and it was a suicide song.
Heidi said that Chris's vehicle was out at the catering business with the door open, the keys, his wallet, everything was left in the vehicle with tracks leading down to the river.
Made it sound like maybe he killed himself and, jumped in the river. Dave, my brother-in-law, walked the river and the pass over there for days looking for him because he thought that, like maybe he had committed suicide over there.
Holding County Sheriff's Office.
Hello, my name is Dave Franklin.
My brother-in-law called Paulding County Sheriff's Department to report his brother, Chris, missing.
I'm from Dane, Ohio. I need to make a silver alert. Apparently my brother's been gone since Sunday.
His workplace said that he hadn't been there that whole week. That's when Dave thought you know, I need to call and file a missing persons report. We had to find out where he was at.
Okay, what's your brother's name?
Chris Franklin. His wife's name's Heidi Grant.
Okay. Why hasn't she called?
I couldn't tell you.
I coach high school wrestling when I'm not working at the police department. I was at a wrestling tournament, and that's when I received a call from my officer telling me that he had a missing persons case and that it was Christopher Franklin. I asked the officer, you know, who was making the report, and he told me that it was Christopher Franklin's brother, Dave Franklin, and that Heidi had not. He had gathered a little bit more information, and some things that he told me seemed a little off to me. The officer told me that Heidi had found Christopher Franklin's truck at the place of business where she worked, and then also that she had found Christopher's cell phone underneath the bed. That's when I decided to head back to Antwerp and speak with Heidi Grant.
Hi, are you Heidi? Come on back, Heidi. Come on back, he's back here on the phone. Just have a seat over there. Thank you for coming up, I greatly appreciate it.
Okay, I appreciate it, thank you. My suspicions were starting to rise that, you know, there was just definitely more to the story than him just going off somewhere.
Tell me where he's at. That's all I need to know. Just tell me where he's at. I have it, and this is such a nightmare.
Okay, what's your husband's name?
Chris.
C-H-R-I-S Franklin. My wife, Captain Clemens, is always usually right there with me, assisting me. So when I interviewed Heidi, she was in the room with me.
How long have you been married? Since November 27th, only 2 months.
2 months.
I did know Heidi before this happened. I used to babysit her children when they were little. When you live in a small community, you know everybody. Everybody is everybody's neighbor or relative in this town.
Okay, when did you last see him, talk to him?
It was Sunday. I left at about 10.
The 16th.
So the last time that Heidi actually told us she had seen Chris would have been on that Sunday morning. She had gone to pick up Chris's daughter, Olivia, from a softball tournament.
I left, and before I left, I had asked him to come with me so I could like make sure he stayed sober. And he's like, I don't feel like going there. And he's like, I'm gonna try to go over to Oakwood and get more stuff. And I looked at him and I said, if you pick that bottle back up, don't come back until you're sober. And that was the last thing I said to him.
Heidi said that when she returned with Olivia, his truck was gone.
So I went in, I checked the house, he wasn't there. So I just assumed he was in Oakwood getting stuff, like, because that's what he said he was going to do.
The next morning when Heidi got up, she said she drove to the Oakwood home thinking he'd probably crashed there from drinking because she had told him not to come home if he was going to drink.
Heidi said she just drove around to different spots in an attempt to locate where Chris might be. And then at one point, Olivia even was with her.
We drove up and down. I don't remember what day it was, but we drove up and down.
Heidi indicated that a few days after Chris had been gone, she located his truck at the back of her business.
So what day did you find his truck at?
That was Tuesday. But I was like shocked to see his truck sitting behind our warehouse, and like I never even thought to look there. I just assumed he had his truck.
She said it was odd that she'd found the truck there. The door was a little bit ajar, keys on the ground. So she thought that was strange because he really loved his truck. Chris would have never left his truck.
Okay, now let's go to the 13th when I was there. 13th. What time did you come home in the morning? There was a point in the interview where her demeanor totally changed.
Olivia PT.
She started to become somewhat emotional. She seemed more agitated than anything.
I don't remember.
She was really struggling to find the answers to the questions I was asking her. What time did he get up, you say Saturday?
I don't remember. I'm sorry,
That's fine. So let's,
It gets me confused when I keep going back and forth in time.
I could tell that, there was something there. There was something more than what she was telling me.
I want you to listen to me. I want you to really listen to me really good here, okay? It's really important for you. You and I both know that you know where he's at, and I need you to tell me that.
I wanted Heidi to tell me the truth so that we could, locate Christopher.
You and I both know that you took his truck out there.
I did earlier in the week when he was drinking to keep him from...
Listen, I'm telling you, I need to know what happened to him.
I don't know, George. I don't.
Yes, you do. Listen to me. I want to help you. Listen. Yes, you do. No, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Now listen to me.
I probably pleaded with Heidi additional 20 to 30 minutes, but she continued. She continued to stick with her story that she had no idea where he was.
I need to know where he's at. You and I both know you know where he's at, Heidi. I just need you to tell me. You and I both know.
I'm not a bad person.
You're not a bad person.
When Heidi made the statement, "I'm not a bad person," and became emotional, I felt that she knew more than what she was telling me.
Please, just tell me where he's at. His family's gonna want to know. Just tell
I know.
Tell me where he's at.
In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, she's done something to him.
Just tell me where he's at, Heidi.
This is such a nightmare.
I'm so sorry that you got to go through this. And I think he was probably somewhat mean to you. I think he yelled at you. I feel bad for you. I think it's horrible that women like you got to put up with things like that. But right now, Heidi, we got to start doing what's right for me, for you, for everybody, his family. We just need to know where he's at.
At one point, I think I threw out there, if something has happened to him and you know where he is, we just need to find, Chris. At that point, Heidi became emotional.
Heidi, you and I both know that you know where he is.
They will all hate me.
They won't hate you, Heidi.
I just really kind of pressed her and pleaded with her essentially to just tell me the truth.
Heidi, listen to me. We all make mistakes. Trust me. I made mistakes in my life. We've all made mistakes, Heidi. Things happen in life.
But then finally she started opening up. She reiterated to me that Christopher's mind was gone because of the alcohol. He'd been acting strange.
His mind was gone. He didn't know who I was, and he was trying. I told you he was trying to see. He was swinging the bat at me. He was trying to hit me, and I kept dodging him. Oh God!
You're doing so good. You're doing good, Heidi. Just continue on, please. You're on such a.
Sorry.
It's okay, Heidi. I believe you.
When Heidi finally started telling what we believed to be the truth, she did seem a little more emotional, a little more upset. But still, I'm thinking, is he alive? Is he hurt?
He was trying. He was trying to kill me.
Okay.
He had totally flipped out on me for TV.
Okay.
So I called my friend and I said, I need protection. And I was hoping when I went back that he would be okay.
I see. Just continue on. I know it's hard. Just
so I had a gun.
I understand.
And it was just protection.
I understand.
Heidi told me that she had a friend that had firearms. That morning she called the friend and asked him if, she could still get that gun.
At that point, I kind of knew something was really wrong here.
They're not gonna hate you, Heidi. Heidi, they know what kind of person he was. Everybody
girl's gonna hate me.
To find out the multitude of what she did, it was quite shocking to me as an officer.
We just need to know where he's at, Heidi. You and I both know that you know where he is. They're not gonna hate you, Heidi.
So in the morning of January 13th, Heidi tells us she entered her home and Chris was there, and she said he was kind of out of his mind.
He grabbed Libby's ball bat out of her bag and was like trying to swing it at me, so I just ran out the door.
When she left the home to go get the gun, Chris actually dialed 911 and said that his wife had beat him with a table leg.
Hello?
She hit me across the head twice, man. It lit me up.
Heidi told me that she drove to a town nearby, retrieved the gun, and then returned back to Antwerp.
She alleges after she walked into the back door, her husband, Chris, gets up and he is completely out of his mind. He doesn't know who she is. He's flailing the bat. She's dodging him.
He just kept coming at me and I knew he was gonna bash my head in. And I was just...
She said she's scared to death for her life, and she reaches in her pocket, grabs the gun.
I didn't know the safety was off.
I see.
And I was just trying to scare him, and it went off, and I hit him, and he fell over.
Hearing that from Heidi, I was almost winded. I would have never thought in a million years that this would even happen in our community.
I didn't want him to suffer.
I understand. He was suffering, so you shot him again.
She said the final shot, she stood over him as he laid on the floor, and she shot him the final time.
How many times do you think you shot him?
I don't.
Okay.
If you shoot somebody one time and you're in true fear, and she alleged he went backwards and fell down, he's no longer a threat at that point. She could have picked up the phone and dialed 911 and got him the help that he needed. She didn't have to eliminate his life.
Heidi was telling me that all of this had occurred the same day that I had arrived at the house.
When I was there, had you already killed him? He was already dead. Is that why you were so hesitant to let me in? Obviously.
Well, because he was laying there dead. And I knew you would arrest me right on the spot, and I was flipping the out.
That contradicted what I saw that day on the porch. There was no emotion from her whatsoever to indicate to me that she had just killed someone. Essentially, Christopher was just laying on the other side of the door, deceased. After she'd confessed to shooting Chris, it was really important that I, find out where Christopher's body was.
I wrapped him up in plastic, and I took him. I had to muscle him down to the basement, and I buried him under cement.
I see.
She laid Chris out flat up against a interior wall, then took cinder blocks and leveled them up like too high, and then got the cement.
Was there already cement down in the basement, or where did you get the cement at?
I bought it.
Like in bags, or where did you buy the cement at?
I paid cash for it at Menards. I've done mortar work before, and it was the only thing the ground's frozen. I didn't know what to do. I was freaking out. I'm not a murderer.
I understand.
She said it took her 2 or 3 separate trips to acquire enough cement to entomb him in the basement. And then she also said that she'd hid the firearm at a location in the basement.
The area where this occurred at, did you clean that area, or how did that happen? Just tell me how did you buy the material?
Blood on the carpet, so I rented a rug doctor. I paid cash for it.
Based off of Heidi's actions and what she told me, led me to believe, she's pretty cold. At the conclusion of that interview, she was charged with murder and transported to the Paulding jail.
I was floored. I couldn't believe that she had killed him and put him in the basement. And for her to do that to Chris and put our family through that's really terrible. That's not something a human being does to somebody.
Heidi was adamant that she had killed Chris out of self-defense. She'd claimed due to his illnesses, he's out of his mind, and she never wavered from that.
She said she had to shoot Chris because she was afraid that he was going to kill her. Had a jury believed that Heidi had acted in self-defense, she would be found not guilty.
We just couldn't stop at Heidi telling us that she had shot Chris out of self-defense. We had to continue to investigate. We knew she had been lying to us previous in the interview, and to get those details were so important to find out exactly what did happen in that home.
We obtained a search warrant for Heidi's house, as it's now a crime scene. The forensic agents went in to gather evidence in the upstairs where the crime occurred. The search for Chris's body took us to this concrete tomb. We were able to, dismantle the top of it because there was a piece of wood laying across it. And then that's where we realized that, the concrete was probably approximately maybe a foot deep with his body encased in it. She really did her due diligence with securing him in that and covering it up. You wouldn't have known there was a body there. Down in the basement, underneath the stairwell, were some shelves with boxes. The gun was retrieved from one of them boxes.
Chief Clemens was able to get footage of Heidi as she made multiple visits to gather different things to clean up that scene.
You can leave everything there, but I will need you. Okay.
Heidi appeared to be very jovial. You would not have known that she had just killed her husband that day.
Have you guys got any good reviews on those? Oh, yeah. People swear by those. Good.
Probably the most shocking thing for me of that footage was when she's at the counter and she has the rug doctor. She looks at the clerk and asks the clerk if they get good reviews on that piece of equipment. Couldn't believe that, her state of mind, she would ask that, knowing what she was about to do.
During the investigation, we had actually taken time to look at Heidi's Facebook, kind of see what's on there. We actually found that during the time that Chris would have been in the basement, she was selling items from her home. People were asked to come to her home to pick up those items.
These were definitely not the actions of a woman in distress. She was just going about her daily life, just normal as could be. This case created a high volume of video footage, surveillance footage, that we obtained from all different sources, but the main one was a business right next door to Heidi's home. When we were looking through the footage, just days after the incident, there's a clip where this red truck is present. Footage was too grainy to show a clear plate number. You could tell by the footage, he was a male, probably in his 40s or 50s, wore glasses.
He is seen in the video helping Heidi, bringing out a freezer, loading that into his red truck.
He places that freezer in his red truck and drives away with it.
So, of course, it's lots of questions in our mind. And so it was imperative to find out, who is this guy? What role does he play? Through our investigation, we were able to figure out who was in that red truck. His name was Neil Deemer.
I felt it was really important to speak with him and find out, what he knew, if he knew anything at all. He said that him and Heidi had developed a friendship several years back, and that they had always just stayed in contact off and on.
Neil was at the home with Heidi. He thought it was an ex-husband, that he was supposed to be helping, and he was a drunk. He wasn't going to help. While at the home, he was helping her move things around, and one thing was a non-working freezer that she needed rid of because it was just in the way. So Neil actually loaded that into his truck, and he disposed that at his workplace. Neil adamantly denied any knowledge of Chris being murdered in that home.
During the interview, I asked him if him and Heidi had an intimate relationship, and he indicated that they did.
Neil indicated that before they moved the furniture and disposed of the freezer, that he and Heidi had actually had sex on the living room floor. Listening to Neil tell us that they had had sex right above where Chris was laying, I was absolutely shocked. I'm thinking, what kind of woman are we really dealing with?
I didn't believe this was self-defense for several reasons. Normal person, I would think, would act rationally in a self-defense situation, and she'd have called the police. And the fact that I was there that morning and he was dead on the other side of the door, that would have been her opportunity to tell me, that that's what occurred.
So we continued to investigate to make sure that we could prove this was an absolute murder and not a self-defense case like she was alleging.
It was important that you know, if that did happen, that I find the evidence to prove that Heidi lied. During our search, we were informed that there was a possible witness that was an employee of the pit stop gas station that may have seen Chris the morning of the incident. The pit stop is probably less than a block away from where Chris's house is. When I spoke with the employee, she indicated that Chris had come in and purchased cigarettes. She said that his shirt was bloody. He had a knot or a black eye, and his face had blood on it. She had asked him if he needed help, and he told her that he was okay and that he'd already called the police.
Hello? Hey, man, my wife should try to kill me.
Based on the 911 records, we was able to determine that Chris must have went to the gas station minutes after making the 911 call. This eyewitness account was very crucial in determining the fact that he had been assaulted by Heidi, and without that witness, we wouldn't know whether or not that truly did happen.
So talking to the gas station attendant really turned things around for us. We knew Heidi wasn't the victim she was alleging she was.
Heidi never wavered from that this was self-defense. But I believe the evidence shows that Heidi Grant contemplated murdering her husband. I think she was tired of the alcoholism. I think she was worried about her reputation in our community. I think when she arrived home in the morning, she struck him with either a ball bat or a table leg. He makes the 911 call.
Hey, man, my wife should try to kill me.
She then left to get the gun. He obviously left and went to the gas station, purchased some items, returned back home. She returns and then shoots him. She shot him 10 times.
That just screams volumes to me of the hate and the rage she must have had for her husband.
She made mention that it was really difficult for her to get him down to the basement all by herself. She has to drag him over to there. When she got him to the top of the stairs, she just shoved him like a sled. She gets him to the bottom of the stairs, and then she has to drag him up where she was going to bury him, and then encased him in a tomb in the basement. As far as the motive, my speculation is she just felt that being in this small community, living with an alcoholic, she didn't want that type of image, and she basically removed Chris from her life, and it wouldn't hurt her family's business.
It's absolutely heartbreaking that the life of a human wasn't as important as her reputation in our small village.
Conclusion of collecting all of the evidence, Heidi was charged and indicted by a county grand jury with aggravated murder. Heidi pled not guilty and was sticking to the story of self-defense. Heidi took the stand during the trial, which is very uncommon for a defendant. She was pleading her case of self-defense to the jury.
There's a lot riding on her testimony. If they truly believed in their mind that she was a victim of this domestic situation, she could walk away. And then there would be no justice for Chris and his loved ones.
I was very confident in the fact that we would get a conviction, but you never know what a jury may or may not believe.
Once the jury came back with a decision, of course you heard weeping from the family that loved Chris, gasps from the family that loved her, and she sat motionless and said nothing.
Heidi Grant's sentence was 15 to life for murder. She got a mandatory 1 year for the use of the firearm.
Heidi was also sentenced to additional 30 months for tampering with evidence, and that all has to be served consecutively. So she will be in jail for a very long time.
When I heard that she'd been found guilty of murder, I was happy about it, but in the same time, sad. It just ruined a lot of lives. I'm glad she didn't get away with it.
It's been about 2 years, and I still look at how my life could have been if none of this would have happened. When Heidi murdered my dad, I not only lost my father, but I also lost her, which she was my stepmom. I considered her like my best friend, and I lost that too.
I miss Chris's laughter. He seemed to laugh a lot. He liked to make people joke, you know. I miss that time that we don't have now. He was a good brother. And I miss him.
She had to choose between Joe or her family.
He was losing control.
That was when he finally went full psycho.
When I looked at him, it wasn't human. It was evil.